Okay, so obviously we covered a lot already today with a lot of the questions that were asked, but I just want to go back to how young this team is, right? It's a completely different switch from last year, and as young reporters, it's kind of exciting for us to see, people coming out through the system, but also going out and finding players. What do you think, just as a general aspect of how young this team is? How do you think that contributes to your culture as the clubhouse, just anything in the locker room right now and on the pitch?
First of all, I think youth brings hunger, it brings a desire to prove oneself, and those are all real good qualities. The group also, then, I would like to hope that is more durable when you're younger. Obviously, you can withstand a little bit more of what I would say in this game is the tough part, right? Is because you got unbelievable travel, you have congestion of schedule, you have different climates you got to play in. There's all these things, and you need people that are available to play. And so, with the youth, the great thing is that we have the ability to, hopefully, some of them are going to become good enough that they become foundational pieces for this club for years to come. And I always have thought that it's very important to have a core group of players that you can rely on, but more importantly, that you can have the continuity from year to year over time, because they are what set the foundation of the team then moving forward. So the youth has a lot of really good benefits. At the same time, you also have to have patience with it as well.
Yeah, and I think that balance is something that's going to be a difficult road of what you're going to be figuring out this year. But I think you have such a solid veteran group, even though they're still technically young. It's such a solid group. I was talking to Tim, though, about something that you said specifically last year. You talked about, in a kind of a rough patch, right? You're talking about mentality and how it's so important to start with that, having to start with the mentality, whether it's in practice or it's an actual match. And he talked about how he feels like the mentality is different this year. Do you agree with that? And what does that look like specifically for you?
I would, and I would say it all stems from your everyday culture. I think this group understands that they individually all have, let's forget about soccer for a second, right? Let's just talk about their everyday interaction, training, traveling with each other, staff, all of that. There's an individual responsibility that you have, right? First off, number one, you have to have respect for your teammates, staff members, vice versa. You also have a responsibility to people's time. Like an example is if I don't know, you had to see one of the physical therapists or one of the massage therapists and you had to be there at 2:00 and now you show up at 2:15. Well, you're disrespectful of their time. You're also disrespectful of the next person that may have to see that massage therapist or that physical therapist. Those things are important. They add or they also subtract from then what you do on the field. If you're not responsible and not accountable off the field, very difficult for you to do that on the field. And so that mentality, it starts there, and then it all filters to each other and also then onto the field in your game and the way you play.
Yeah, I can already see it coming out because I was talking to some of the guys that said, I know as soon as the ball kicks off on Tuesday, Lionel Messi, Suarez, these guys are just opponents. None of that is in their minds. And I think that's already a little bit different. I'm not going to say that's what happened last year, but I feel like because of last year's experience, but also the fact that this mentality is different, that's really already stemming out into their mentality for this game. Do you agree with that? And what does that look like specifically for Tuesday?
Yeah, I do. And let me say it this way: if you go all the way back to our first day of preseason and you go to our last day of preseason, there is a significant progress in all aspects of our game, but also in the people and the way that they understand about how we are and they are to approach practice, games. But now we're going to play a real game, and we're playing obviously an incredibly formidable opponent, right? But it's a great challenge for a young team, a team that is trying to find itself, is trying to find the things that they believe in and they can fight for. And so mentality-wise, I think the team we're not there yet, right? We're going to be different than we are right now, and a month from now we'll be different, but we're in the right direction. Last year, our culture wasn't good. Last year, I don't think our mentality was good. I think the difference now is that this group understands that the game is 90 minutes. It's not if you give up a goal, then all of a sudden you can't come back. I think they have a different aspect also about defending, and all of those things. They're not going to all happen on Tuesday night, but there has to be pieces of that do show up in the game and that we can build from. And if it does, there's going to be two things after that. It's going to be both from the staff and the players, there's going to be this level of patience, because not everything is going to happen all at once, and everybody has to continue to believe and work a little bit harder on the next day to just get a little bit better, and you're just constantly trying to put like another layer on the onion, and then all of a sudden it actually becomes an onion, right? Like you see it, and that's what we're trying to create.
And I think you already foreshadowed it in all your answers, but obviously last year I think it could be described as a roller coaster in terms of closing games, and what I mean by that is just
I get it.
Okay, yeah. So, what do you think? I guess with mentality switch, the new players, obviously a couple leadership position switches. Right now, it feels like that's the main focus is, hey, we're not going to win every game, we're not going to draw in every close match or whatever, but what about this team can go out and get those extra points? Because we saw so many points dropped last year.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you had a longer offseason. Yeah. Obviously, it's nice now, but that's not what your preference is.
So, first off, there is a huge emphasis on the organization defensively, okay? Not to say that there wasn't in the past, it's just that we had to reset, right? So there's that. But the thing you need for that, it's great. You can be like, I can tell every guy what he has to do, but at the end of the day, you have to do two things. You have to focus and you have to execute. And so there has been a conscious effort on the player side to do those two things. It's one thing to pay attention, hey, I have to be here, but it's to do it at the right times. And so that this group is actually and has been working very hard towards that, but we still have we really do have a lot of work to do in it, because we now got to go suffer it in some games. And then understand that maybe a game won't go well, but you can't lose your faith. You just have to come back from that, and you have to work a little bit more. You have to concentrate a little bit more, because there's always been this one thing that when you look around the world and you look at the countries that have been really good in the game, and I'm talking about international soccer now, I'm not talking about club soccer. One of the reasons why Germany was so respected for so long is because not only were they consistent winners, but they're consistent winners because even when they played a poor game, they didn't go change everything the next game because they just had a poor game. They looked at themselves and they admitted that, hey, we could have done this, and this better within our model of play. And if we go do that, we can achieve the same success that we've had consistently over time. And for us, it's not